Hi Walking Dead fans, this is my review for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 10, titled Handle with Care. Now, the last two episodes of Fear were absolutely brilliant. We had the death of Virginia and the tragic death of John Dory. So I wasn't expecting this episode to be a 10 out of 10 either, because it's hard to keep that momentum going. Now, this episode wasn't a filler episode, but it was more of a calmer episode, and it was very Daniel-centric. So the basic plot for this episode is a threat worse than Virginia is on the horizon. Morgan calls for unity and invites all survivors in his settlement, tasking Daniel to keep the peace. However, Daniel will need to face his own challenges in hope of protecting his friends. That's Morgan's plan, is to get everyone together to come up with a plan because there's a greater threat on the horizon. This is more of a Daniel episode, and it kind of flashbacks and flash forwards to him in a prison cell telling the story of the episode. So we didn't know who he was talking about or talking to until the end of the episode. We got to see all the events occur. Now, the episode was okay. It was pretty good. I like this episode because it's something different for the Walking Dead universe. You know, I like when they take risks in their storytelling, and this kind of episode was something that we haven't really seen before. It was kind of a mystery episode of who did it, you know, in that kind of way, because they think they have a mole in the group. Amongst all these communities, there's a mole that's working with this new group, maybe because of what happened at the oil kind of town and stuff. A big explosion happened there where Virginia lost her arm. So that was sabotaged by this new group. So that's what they're in fear of, and they have to come together. Now, look, this episode, it could have been a little bit better maybe in certain aspects. Maybe the walkers could have been a little bit more of a threat. But you know what? I understand that this was shot during kind of social distancing time as well, when they just came back after the long break that they had. So that has to be taken into account as well. Still, I thought the characters didn't look obvious that they were trying to keep 6 feet apart from each other or 1 foot apart from each other because of COVID. But I think it worked out in the end. But yeah, it's more of a Daniel episode. It's from his perspective, telling the events of the episode. And it worked in a way because, look, Morgan gets everyone together, come up with a plan. Morgan has to leave because Grace is having contractions with her baby. They need to see if the baby's okay, and he has a monitor somewhere in some other location, so he has to go off. He goes off with the rabbi as well. They take the big tank, Sherry's group, the tank. They go off there and they look for that. So he's gone for most of the episode, Morgan, and he leaves Daniel in charge. Now, Daniel, remember in the last few episodes or earlier on in the season, like, he had memory loss, but he was only pretending to kind of, you know, suss out Virginia's group and what she was doing. He was pretending not to know anything. But in this episode, it actually seems to be happening to him as a character in real life and his real events. You know, he actually is forgetting things. But in this episode, he's suspicious of Strand, because Strand in the past has lied. You know, he's cheated, he's stealed, he's been really kind of two-faced in the past. So that's why kind of Daniel has this vendetta against him. I think Strand shot him as well in the past. So look, they have a rivalry there, those two characters. And of course, Strand would be one of those characters you would think that would maybe turn on the group if he had the chance maybe to survive himself. He's one of those types of characters, and Daniel feels the same. So he's suspicious of Daniel, but he's also suspicious of Sherry's group, you know, as well. So look, it's very much up in the air. And in this episode, I actually didn't think it was Daniel doing everything. I thought maybe it was a mole, somebody's undercover, and I think it's still going to happen. But we find out that, you know, Daniel's suspicious, but he hides away he locks up the guns actually, because he doesn't want, that's Morgan's rule, no guns within the settlement, which is fair enough. But then this explosion happens when they're having their meeting, and they don't know who did it. They don't know if it was the mole, if it was someone in this other community, or if it's someone within the community, Morgan's community. So they didn't really know who did it. It was never explained in the episode who created the explosion. So that leads to Daniel being suspicious of Strand. But he locks away the guns, of course, but then the sound of the explosion brings walkers to the community. And it didn't seem to be that many walkers. Like, the walkers didn't seem to be that much of a big threat. You know, I think they could have handled them if they needed to, but of course, it's an episode, it's a show, they have to make it dramatic. And so they're figuring out what to do. They can't find the guns. They think there's someone in the community who's a mole. But something interesting happens where Daniel lets the walkers into the community, which is completely bad. It's stupid, because what he wanted to do was he would let walkers into the community, then the person who had the guns would take out the guns to shoot the walkers. That's what his plan was, to find out who it was. And of course, Strand had a gun. He saved Dwight. I think he saved Sherry as well. He shot a few walkers, and Daniel's like, oh, it was you that took all the guns. And you know, you have Strand there. He's like, no, I just smuggled in this gun. I didn't take all the guns. But then Daniel doesn't believe him, puts him in a prison cell and threatens him as like, tell me where the guns are. Why are you doing this to this community? And Strand's like, I'm not doing anything. And that's there's actually an emotional moment there as well between Daniel and Strand, where Daniel explains to Strand the amount of pain he's in after he got shot in the face, and how it hurts to eat food, to even talk and stuff like that, and he hides his emotions. And it makes Strand even feel bad for Daniel, but Daniel's a little bit on the edge. And of course, he's kind of worried about Grace and her baby as well, so he sends her off to be safe, because Morgan, of course, I think Morgan loves Grace, or he has feelings for her. I think them two might be in a relationship as well. But he sends her off with Charlie and says, go to the fish shack or some other location that's off the settlement to be safe. Go there, you'll be safe, and I'll come and get you when everything is okay here, because you can't trust people. And it was interesting as well, because Strand's in prison. He's very suspicious of other people. Dwight doesn't know what to make of it all either. And then you have Dakota just in the background as well, and nobody likes Dakota right now. And it looks like she's going to get some sort of redemption arc in the seasons, because look, nobody really likes her right now because she killed John Dory, and I don't like her right now either. I just didn't like the way John Dory died. It was great writing, it was a great television moment, but I just love that character so much. So everyone hates Dakota right now, but it looks like Dakota is going to survive. She's not going to be killed off, because she provided a great piece of information for the group about this other group, the bigger threat that's coming as well. So it looks like she's sticking around for a while, and she might go on some sort of redemption arc. But Morgan comes back. He comes back in the tank. He's able to take down all the walkers from the outside, of course, the big tank with all the guns. And he's come in and is like, Daniel, what's going on in here? And where's Grace? So I sent Grace off, and Morgan goes off to look for Grace then. But Grace is not the location that Daniel told her to go. And then Daniel's a little bit worried. Morgan's worried. Everyone's looking for Grace. And they end up finding Grace. And Daniel goes, Grace and Charlie, why didn't you go to the location I showed you on the map? The fish shack. And then they go, but Daniel, you told us not to go to the fish shack. You told us to go to this other place. You even wrote it on the map. And then Daniel's kind of looking at the map. He's like, did I write that? Did I tell you? I thought I told you. But actually in the episode, if you watch it back, Daniel did tell them to go to the fish shack. And they said he didn't. So it's kind of interesting here. And this is why I'm kind of thinking, maybe there was a bigger conspiracy in all of this already. Maybe Charlie is working for this other group. Maybe Grace. We don't know the background of Grace. Where did she come from? So this is very suspicious right now. And I don't really believe that Daniel is kind of losing his mind in a way. I think maybe because in earlier seasons, in season 2, he kind of did for a bit as well, because he even referenced that. He burnt down that kind of community, that kind of building there as well in Mexico. So there is signs of him in the past of losing his mind. He lost his mind, then he pretended to lose his mind. Now he seems to be losing his mind again. Or is he? It could just be a small part of it. June comes back as well. Morgan calls June for some help. June, of course, being a nurse, a doctor. She comes in, but that's not really her kind of sector, dealing with people with mental illnesses and stuff like that. But she tries to help him as best as he can. And Daniel's he's just very confused by everything. He doesn't know if he's okay. And he's the one who took away all the guns from the infirmary as well. He's the one who hid them. They were in his cabin, but he doesn't remember doing it. And it's interesting, because how come people didn't see him do it if he did do it in the community? So it is kind of interesting. But yeah, is Grace working for this other community? Why would she lie? Even though if you go back and watch the rest of the episode, Daniel did say the fish shack. So it's very interesting. It is interesting to see that as well. Morgan, of course, feels bad for him, but he doesn't want to let him out in the community in case maybe he hurts somebody. I don't know. But then by the end of the episode, Daniel gets his horse and he's going to leave the community. I'm going to go off on my own. He tells Charlie, look, I need to get away. It's better for everyone if I get away. It's safer for everyone. And then Strand comes in and says, look, don't go there. Don't go to the warehouse. Come back to Lawton. Living in Lawton. And I'm just kind of thinking, well, if he's not going to be able to live in Morgan's community, then how would he be able to live in Lawton as well with Strand, someone he hates, kind of way. So we'll have to see how that develops. Of course, it's story, it's writing. They have to try and develop these characters and develop the story a little bit more. But yeah, he's going to live in Lawton now with his mind all over the place. But is it? I'm very questionable of this, because is there a mole in Sherry's group? Is there a mole in Morgan's group? Is there a mole in Lawton? That girl that was on the horse with Strand, is she kind of working with this community? It's very hard to know, because there definitely is somebody, because somebody caused the explosion. We never found out in this episode who did this. But yeah, I don't think Daniel is losing his mind as much as he thinks. I think maybe he was set up by Grace or Charlie with the map, or by somebody putting the guns in his cabin. You know, I just think that it's not all that meets the eyes right here, because there was a lot of, like, Charlie was very suspicious in this episode, I thought. Maybe even Grace as well. So I'm a little bit tormented as well by this. Now, maybe Daniel is losing his mind and we'll find out that there was no conspiracy theory. But I just think if you go back and watch the episode, it's either bad writing from the Fear writers or really good writing that will pay off in the next few episodes. But yeah, that's basically what the episode was. Daniel-centric, losing his mind. Nice piece of music in it at the start as well. So look, good enough episode. It's kind of a coming down episode from the last two, but the last two were pretty great. So we'll have to see how the rest of this season goes. We don't know how many episodes are for the back half of this season yet, because I think they only went back with COVID. I presume they got to shoot them all, so I'm guessing another 6 episodes left, which is great. I think next week's episode is more of an episode with Alicia, so that'll be interesting as well. And that kind of guy from Batman and Robin, he's been in loads of films as well. You know, he looks like a mad scientist in this upcoming episode, so that should be cool to see. Might get a little bit more background to this new community. But it looks like that Luciana is going to be going to try and catch up with Alicia as well, because they're worried about this new group. And the big piece of information that Dakota gave Morgan and the group was that this group, when Virginia was talking about them, was that they would go underground. And Dakota thought maybe that meant lying low, you know, staying off the radar. But maybe they're actually coming from underneath the ground. So I don't know how that's going to work whatsoever. Very interesting. Look, something different again. Are they cannibals? Are they just a Negan group? Are they a Whisperer group? What are this group? And I'm interested to see exactly what they have planned for us. But guys, Handle with Care, episode 10 of season 6 was another solid episode. Not the best of the season, not my favourite of the season, but I thought it was interesting. Some of the camera style was good. The walkers were a little bit weak, but remember they came back after COVID as well for this episode, so the budget might not have been as that high as The Walking Dead, the main show. But yeah, all good performances. The Daniel actor did a great job. Strand actor did a great job. Lenny James's Morgan is always great. But yeah, that was a good episode. So looking forward to next week's episode. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, Fear the Walking Dead has been amazing this season, I would say. Some of the best television on television right now, in my opinion. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But guys, let me know your thoughts below. Give a like, comment, subscribe. Come follow me on all the social medias. Movies That Matter. Search it, you'll find me. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching and enjoy.